one.
Oh, we'd be all right if the wind was in our sails. Oh, we'd be all right if the wind was in our sails. Oh, we'd be all right if the wind was in our sails. And we'll all hang on behind. And we'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. And we'll all hang on behind. Oh, we'd be all right.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Music Mentality Podcast. It just occurred to me, did anyone actually share this on Facebook or something? Someone probably should have shared that. The music that you just heard, I'm excited to talk about. I showed Josue this, and Jonathan just listened a few minutes prior, but that was David Coffin singing Roll the Old Chariot Along, and it's this folk tune, it's this old school folk tune that he's like this burly bass guy who like just sings some folk tunes and stuff and has very little on Spotify, but it's super awesome and it gets me every time. But interestingly, I did some research on this guy because I'm like, who is this folk guy singing this? You know, he got really popular. I'm sure you've seen the video on YouTube of him like singing in a street at a music festival or something and everyone's singing along with him and stuff. But I'm like, who is this guy? And you look up this like folk singer, David Coffin guy, and straight up turns out his father, which is William Sloane Coffin, studied to be a concert pianist with Nadia Boulanger. This like random folk singer dude who nobody knows, his dad studied with Nadia Boulanger. And I'm like, what the heck? And if you don't know who Nadia Boulanger is, she's basically the reason for every 20th century composer that we have. And yeah, she's awesome. So how's everybody doing this week? That was a long intro.
Okay.
Good.
It's all right.
Good.
I mean, yeah, okay.
All right, well, I guess we'll just jump right into it then if you guys are just like, I'm just doing good. Brain, what did you listen to this week?
I listened to a lot of jazz, a lot of big band jazz, actually, and gospel. Stuff like Hezekiah Walker and that kind of stuff.
Tight.
Yeah.
Toy.
What about you? Next person in line.
Next person in line is
Oh.
Jonathan. Jonathan, what did you listen to this week?
I listened to Natalia Lafourcade. I listened to Selena. I listened to Sarah Bareilles. I listened to Nelly. I listened to Kelly. I listened to everything I always listen to.
Tight.
Like,
Josue.
Josue, what did you listen to?
Great start, guys. This is going super well.
I listened to a band called Explosions in the Sky.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Do you know
yeah.
about them?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I listened to them once in high school, and nope, I didn't like it.
Really?
Yeah. And then somebody, like, recently shared, like, a post about them, and I was like, that sounds like a name that I remember. And I checked out one of their albums again, and I was like, oh my gosh, this was incredible. So what I did was I went for a drive and listened to, like, 2 or 3 of their albums, just driving around, just so I could, like, have some peace and quiet and listen to the music. And it was awesome.
Was that person's name Fathu Malik?
I think it might have been.
I just know he's a big Explosions in the Sky fan.
Might have been.
It's like post-rock, right?
Matthew, yeah.
Yeah, Fathu. Yeah. I mean, he's really big into post-rock and stuff.
Cool.
I'm more, when it comes to post-rock, I don't know if you guys are actually like into the genre. God is an Astronaut, every single album just like slays to me. But I also I find myself not listening to like Godspeed You Black Emperor very often. Do you guys even know these names? Am I just like saying names right now?
I've heard of the astronaut one before. That's about it.
Don't worry,
I figured Brain would have heard of them.
No.
That's crazy. All right, moving on. Well, Jacob, what did you listen to this week? So I love, Brain, that you said gospel because we're keeping it all tied together. I was actually listening to Israel Houghton this week. And
Is
man,
that how you pronounce his name?
yeah, I'm pretty sure. I've heard people say like Houghton and stuff. I'm pretty sure it's Houghton.
I used to say Houghton.
I think
Who
it's
knows how
Houghton.
to pronounce it?
Everyone in the
Houghton.
church world pronounces it Houghton.
Okay.
We should ask him.
Ask him personally.
Yeah.
Text him real quick.
How to pronounce your name?
Yeah. So I've been listening to that, and I don't know what it is about. First of all, if you don't know Israel Houghton, he's a gospel musician, probably the top name in gospel for the past like 5 or 10 years or something. Just phenomenal. And his is it Live in Asia tour is like super cool because it mixes gospel with like all kinds of like Asian harmonies and melodies and stuff and whack rhythms, and it's all over the place. And I don't know what it is about listening to Israel Houghton, but it makes me want to be a drummer. Like, I don't even care about the bass player in gospel music, but it makes me want to be a drummer for some reason.
Exactly. Good call.
Brain, what have you been working on this week?
Big patterns. Rather than playing kind of these kinds of where it's kind of scales, more like patterns of fourths and fifths, right?
Yeah.
So you get this like it's clearly pentatonic, right, in nature, and it has this kind of jumping sound like a cricket.
Right.
Did you apply it?
To big band?
No, I did not apply that.
Oh.
Yeah. Whenever I practice, I'm practicing this, but I'm never gonna use this. I need to.
All the modern stuff uses it, but I'm not going to be able to play like chordal things in big band music often.
Yeah.
Rarely do I even get to solo, right? Much less play in that kind of a loose style.
I mean, that's
So, Jonathan, before you eat that cookie, go on.
No. Stop him before he eats the cookie. What did you have?
No! I need.
What?
I got some chips over here too.
Do y'all want an Oreo? I can pass you one.
What did you work on this week, Jonathan?
Oh man, I'm such a disappointment.
Are you really?
Yeah, well, I didn't really practice much because, well, last week we've been studying.
You had some tests, right?
Yeah, and I ended up failing the test anyways.
Oh.
So it kind of sucks, but I was just kind of like started practicing again yesterday, and I have an exam on Wednesday, but I already studied a lot, so I feel okay. I'm just getting back into it.
I'm so blown away that you failed. I thought you were like a good student, Jonathan.
Thought you were a nerd.
Yeah. What happened? Why did you quit music if you were just gonna go fail math?
We actually held you in high regard in theory as like the nerdiest of all the nerds in theory, and then you left to pursue math, and I was like, well, that's as nerdy as you can get.
It's nerdy.
And now you're failing the test.
What is this?
It's a hard class.
What class is it?
It's excuses 101.
I don't. I swear.
You need
What
a
did you
course in
say?
the
What did
School
you
of Hard
do?
No, don't get me in.
So you didn't practice.
is it?
You failed your math test. You're eating
But
Oreos.
he's a good guy.
But he listened to Selena and Natalia Lafourcade or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, like they make me feel better about how bad I am.
Was it calculus?
No, it's like it's a financial class, but imagine it was like turned up to like a whole bunch of gears,
What
and
is
now
it
it's like
called?
I introduction to financial math.
Introduction. It's an introduction class.
Oh my God, you don't know nothing. You want I bet all of y'all couldn't even do algebra.
No, that's
Yeah, I
true.
mean, yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do algebra.
I took college algebra online over the summer at one point. Straight up had to spend like 40 hours a week just working on that class alone, trying to relearn all the algebra that I had forgotten over the last like 4 years from high school. It was just
That's real algebra.
and no one could help me. Everyone learns it and then forgets it. That's the most frustrating part. I asked people for help and no one knew how to do it.
Like
Well,
with algebra, you can't understand it. You just have to accept it.
I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
That's the only way you can pass. Because you're
okay.
never gonna understand it. It doesn't make any sense.
But
Well,
anyway,
sway.
wait, I was gonna say something.
He's got stuff. Remember the finger system? Please implement the finger system.
No, but like, yeah, so like I didn't play for a whole week. So it was kind of like I had a eureka moment last week. I talked about it, but now it's like I had to re-find it. So like my mouth has been going through so much. I'm learning how to use it in different ways.
Cookies.
Like eating Oreos.
Cookies. Yeah.
Shut up. Oh my, that's it.
I swear, what did you do this week?
You know actually, right? Because I sent you that
Oh
audio
yeah.
clip.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I finally made like a whole bunch of progress on like my double kick playing for Jacob's piece called something else, which will be recorded very soon,
Very soon.
hopefully. But yeah, I couldn't get past doing like 16th notes at like 165, and I was like, you know what? Let me just slow it down. I'm sorry.
Nothing.
Okay. I just slowed the metronome way down to like 90, and I just worked on like some simple like alternating rhythms with my feet. And then after about an hour of that, I was like, let me see how fast I can just do 16ths. And then I got to like 200, and I was like, whoa, that was awesome. So
Nice.
it just jumped like 40 clicks after an hour,
That's I
which is
mean,
really exciting.
that's like super progress. Like to do that and
Yeah,
actually make that much progress in an hour. Like
it was insane.
you jumped up like you were on a plateau and just jumped the
Yeah,
mountain. Like
yeah.
yeah.
We just like catapulted. What?
Yeah. Now it's the next like 20 BPM or whatever, and then you're there.
Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it. Yeah,
Yeah.
What
excited.
your songs at 220?
Yeah, it's quick. It's and my violin player, he was messaging me about it too, and he straight up was like, "Dude, are we doing this at tempo? Because some of these triplet patterns are like ridiculous." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean they're ridiculous on bass too, and like practicing them is like a mess." But we're doing it at 220. And if it
I
comes out, it's
could
gonna
go
be
for at
awesome.
least 240.
Wait,
I
what?
could go for 240 to 245. I think we should.
He's just got like chords. That's
I
all he's doing.
I actually can't. Well, he's got the same triplet patterns that I do at times. Um, we're like in unison or octaves, I guess, at times. But I could tell you right now, I couldn't do any more than 220. That like I'm not that good of a musician, and I kind of wrote some of it to improve the people playing it as musicians, right? To make it not super hard, but just there enough where it's like you're gonna be a better musician by the time you learn this. Yeah, what's up?
It's
Are they
working.
like are they just triplets on the downbeat, or are you like got some weird shit going on?
Oh, they're all over the place. Meter is like not even a thing in this piece. It's everywhere, and it's real quick. So I think I don't have like triplet sixteenths or anything, but like triplet eighth notes at 220 is real fast. And then I think the saxophone has some 16th notes and stuff. I don't have any 16th notes because I can't play that fast, I don't think. Anyway, enough about this piece that people may or may not ever hear. But
If they don't hear it, at least we got good.
yeah. Hey, Boom Siang. I have no idea who that is. It's just someone in the chat. What did I do this week? I'm really trying to finish up this choral composition that's like due in 2 weeks. Honestly, that's my biggest thing. And I submitted a piece for the FCI National Conference, which I won't say what it is because it's supposed to be anonymous. But yeah, that's basically been my week.
I love saxophone.
Awesome, Jacob. Well,
let's move into the next topic. Thank you for transitioning, Brain. Actually, do you guys want to like pick who goes first? Normally it would go in order, but do you guys want to pick?
oh,
Daniel is
Jonathan's nose-
slow.
Oh, he's doing nose goes.
Josue has to do it.
Let's wait. What's your topic, my man?
Dang it. So earlier this week.
Let's do it. Let's get into it, dude.
Should we go there?
We can.
Should we go there?
We can if you want.
Okay.
If it's your topic, yeah.
Okay. I mentioned to Jacob about this other Jacob that we all know, named Jacob Collier.
I think so. Yeah.
I think that's how you pronounce it. We should
Yeah.
message him. And we were talking about like his voice and stuff like that. And Jacob had some pretty strong opinions that he was a terrible singer.
These are no. You cannot set me up like that's not true.
But anyway, that he didn't have like, the resonance and stuff like that. And
he doesn't.
that's true, which is true. But it got me to thinking, there's other singers that are kind of critiqued for how their voice sounds. Like, I know there's an opera singer named Jonas Kaufmann, who's really known for his open, like, backspace technique, because like he used to sing with a lot of like the other way, the forward resonance.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Yeah.
Forward resonance.
And then he lost his voice, and then he got retrained by an American baritone that was living in Germany. And his vocal production changed significantly, and it got much darker. So he kind of sounds like a baritone, which I think is incredible because I'm sick of tenors getting all the glory, and it's about time that the baritone sound started taking over the world. We will rise. And yeah, and I know Jacob mentioned that I wish that another singer would sing what he's singing.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me to thinking, well, how should I say this? Is it better to like change your technique for like a more universally pleasant sound, or keep what you got and that it's instantly recognizable? Do you know what I'm saying? Like your tone, your sound? Like whenever I hear Prince, it's like, he's probably not singing with healthy technique. Sometimes it sounds like he's screaming and stuff like that. And I'm just like, there's no mistaking who it is.
True.
That's it.
I'll let someone else take the reply to this just because me and Josue already talked about it a bit. So someone else jump on this.
John.
You can relate it to, I guess, like
Okay.
your saxophone or something.
If I was gonna relate it to saxophone players, it's kind of like how Charlie Parker had terrible technique, sort of like his sounds were like not acceptable today, right? But I mean, I feel like I can even tell him apart from his imitators because of that. So.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
But do you think he was successful because of his sound, or was he successful because he was just like really good at bebop playing?
Well, he like.
How much does the sound influence, I guess?
I think it was because it's kind of like he was doing what nobody else was doing. That's why he was, and he did it better than everybody.
I mean but that's similar to like Jocko, right? Jocko, I mean, there's like that famous quote that everybody, Jocko is an amazing bass player, but nobody wanted him as their bass player because he didn't really play bass, and even his tone, right? If you've seen the Jocko documentary, he talks about how the reason he did the fretless thing was because he played upright, and then he was like up in the north or something, and the cold got to it or something. He came home.
It was
one
actually
day.
the South, right? Florida, the humidity
Oh, was it?
or something, right? The heat cracked it.
Maybe, I don't know. But he came home one day and his upright was like in pieces. And so like that day he like stripped the frets out of his electric, and he was like, that's what I'm doing. And that's how like I don't know if that's how the fretless bass became like a really popular thing, but I mean he popularized it probably.
Okay, then I have your answer. As long as you die young, it doesn't matter. They both died young.
True. Okay, so I'll take a spin at this, right? So, and I have a little note here, right? So being recognizable, that's interesting, especially with vocalists, because their physiology affects the sound. I actually can tell at times who I'm listening to, right? Mm-hmm. On an instrument, imitation, I think, is a little easier to pull off, right? But that's just a premise or a preface to what I'm going to say. Zach Wilde, the guitar player for Ozzy, describes this story of going through the radio and saying, okay, this player does this guy does this. All of this has been done. What has not been done, right? And he like made a list and scratched off everything everyone else had done, and the only thing left, he circled and he said, that's all I'm going to do. And my whole sound is going to be that because no one does that. Right?
And he did like the distortion with chorus, right? That whole thing. Mm-hmm. Go on. Sorry. Keep going.
Go.
Okay.
Sorry, I got someone bothering me over here. All right. Anyway. So I wanted to say that, but that gets into the realm of guitar tone, right? So I talked about biology and physiology, but there are guitar players now, especially with the axe effects and the Kimber and some of the digital stuff, that their sound literally is recognizable by the kind of reverb and decay it has on it. Jeff Townsend, right? Or a guy like Steven Wilson, who's almost a sound engineer and producer first, and just a guitar player to fit the song. And all his tones are EQ'd and specific to his pieces that he composes. And yeah, guitar tone's an interesting idea of finding individuality as well. But that's all I have to say on that, really. I feel like Forrest Gump, by the way, every time I say that. And that's about all I have to say about that.
Jonathan, was that hand because you wanted to speak?
Sort of. Well, I mean, because Josue, For singers, I mean, isn't it really just about the kind of like work you want to do that just determines what you decide to do?
To some extent, um, should Josue, you want to take this one, or you want me to take the answer to that?
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So to some extent, so I'm gonna just do a little bit of education here for the listeners. Not that I'm like an amazing singer or something, but I guess because I'm the official vocalist of the group. So Brain mentioned like the physiology and the biology of it, and how like your sound is your sound because of biology, and that's true to some extent. But then it's kind of like
That's
what,
true scientifically, to an ultimate extent,
well,
right?
but I think that's undermining the quote unquote manipulation and the change and development of the voice that can happen, right? And kind of like how Jonathan's saying, you sing for what market you're kind of into. Well, you do that for anything, right? If I'm playing in a reggae band as a bass player, I'm not doing 16th note tremolo picking octatonic scales, right? You know, it's a change of style, right? And it's the same thing. So my wife has the incredible ability to just about sing any style, and her voice changes depending on each style, and it's kind of interesting. But this happens a lot with people who like started pop and then move into the classical, and then eventually like transition into other stuff. Um, but so the voice, it's generally accepted that classical training teaches completely healthy technique. And once you get that healthy technique, everything else kind of comes along with it naturally. And I found that that's pretty true. Because what it does is it focuses on getting a good core breast support, right? And an open backspace, right? And if you don't know what backspace is, it's kind of like that yawny sound, like, right? Like, right? All open. Like the idea is, I've heard described as you want a cathedral in the back of your throat to produce as much like sound as possible. But then you've got the forward resonance too, which is kind of like a nasal, which actually is the majority of your sound. Well, I don't know if it's really the majority of your sound, but it's a huge part of your sound and what your timbre makes you biologically, right? So like, like this is like really bright and forward and resonancy, and this is like really back and open, and ideally you have something like this, right? Which is like in between. Sorry, I didn't want to sing on stream, but ideally you have something in between, right? And you have both working ideally at the same time. So when we're talking about like style, yeah, there's any style that's not classical is generally less open. Like pop and jazz and stuff, the backspace is less open. And then like musical theater is really bright and nasally, pretty much all the time. And then jazz and pop are in between. But since we're talking about Jacob Collier, which was the start of the discussion, Jacob Collier sings in a way he's singing like pop music and jazz music, and he's all about like micro tuning everything the exact way he wants, and he has like perfect pitch, and he's like this brilliant composer and brilliant instrumentalist, and he has all these abilities and stuff. But then when he sings, he doesn't actually have any forward resonance, and he kind of sings back here, right? And so
Hating it.
and so yes, Jonathan, and so Jonathan, it does. You are correct that it does depend on style, but yeah, that's kind of what we're bringing it back to, is that he's singing in a style that's like, he sings like pop and jazz, right? And he's got all his like weird variations on jazz standards and stuff, but he sings super like open and super, I don't want to say dull, but I'm kind of gonna say dull. And so
I've heard it. I think I know what you mean.
and so that's kind of what raises the question of, well, and I'm actually just gonna move right into this.
He's faking it all.
Do you think he's faking it?
Yep. He's probably not even a musician. He's just joking around with them.
That's hilarious.
He's
No.
playing the tracks all day long.
Well,
It's an AI algorithm that makes his music.
He probably is the AI algorithm, to be honest.
he is artificial intelligence. Yeah.
Fake news.
I wish I had a fraction of like his intelligence.
Esperanza Spalding is way more relevant than Jacob Collier. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, she's... Well, let's stay on topic. I could talk about her
Exactly.
separately.
But thank you for the input and keep it coming. Please.
I don't think... Okay, actually, no. I'm going to say this. I think that's incorrect. I think Jacob Collier is the most relevant because he's the most, like, innovative composer that we have today.
On
And
planet.
that... I don't think on the planet, but he's kind of that, like, young figure, right? He's kind of like that young Mozart figure that we got going on right now. And Esperanza Spalding is a brilliant musician as well. But, I mean... I would bet you that some of the people in this chat right now don't even know that name.
Wow.
Did Brent want to talk next? What was that finger that he put up?
I lost my mind. When he said young Mozart, I said, that's my stage name. Why you in the Done deal.
Okay, so moving on to the Jacob Collier thing. We talked about how he has this unique sound because of his, well, we'll call it poor singing technique, because that's, I mean, as long as it's not unhealthy, it's technically not poor singing technique. But his voice isn't fully realized, which is super interesting because he's such a brilliant instrumentalist and composer everywhere else. It's interesting that his voice doesn't seem to be fully realized yet. But beyond that, it raises the question, do you recognize Jacob Collier's sound because of his voice? Or do you recognize his sound because of his compositional style?
Compositional style, the texture, the sonority of his chords, and the thickness where he chooses to put the tensions, like on the outsides or in the insides or that kind of thing. I definitely hear similarities, and if I heard something real good, like real good, I would have to just guess it was his music. And like, if it was very innovative and I couldn't wrap my head around it, but it was just awesome, yeah, he'd be my first guess.
I would say the majority of the people, like, you know, who would watch like his videos and like his quick Instagram post or something, have no idea about compositional style. They don't know what he's doing. They don't know what they hear. But as soon as they hear like ba ba doo 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 bra ba, like they're like, oh, that's that guy with the bobbly head. They're like, yeah, that's him. You know.
But that's
I feel like you
compositional
can-
style, right?
I don't know. I feel like it's sort of blends a little bit.
See,
Yeah, I see your point.
You know, as soon as you hear like that falsetto or whatever, it might be a mixture to me. I feel.
That's fair.
yeah.
I feel like the musicians would recognize the compositional style, but no, really, musicians are a small portion of the internet.
True.
We're a very small minority. Everybody else is just randomly searching, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that guy that does like all the voices and stuff."
True, and they probably don't recognize the name.
True.
But see, I don't know, because I think his, like, to me, his chord choices and his rhythm choices especially lead me to know it's him more so than his voice. I mean, his voice is a clear indication because his voice is just like, I know it so well now, right? But the average person, I'm not sure they know his voice that well. I don't know. It's probably both. But to me, like, well, counter example, I guess, if you listen to Home off of Jesse Volume 1, which is sang by Voces 8, and not him.
Wait, the album's name is Jesse?
Djesse.
Is that how we pronounce it?
I think so. It's
And
just,
I'm pronouncing everything wrong.
I thought it was like Gent, but like Jesse.
I thought it was like just say or something like that.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe you just thought it was more proper than it is. I actually don't know. But maybe it is. I mean, that's probably how he would say it. Just say. But yeah, like if you listen to that, which is Voces 8 singing, would anyone necessarily know it's him? I think so. If you have the ear to pick out the microtonality, you would get that it's him. First time I listened to it, I didn't pick out the microtonality though. I didn't have a good enough ear to recognize that he was modulating to G half sharp or whatever, you know.
I have a question
Go
for
ahead,
everyone. Okay. You walk into a room. To your left is Kanye West. To your right is Jacob Collier. Which direction are you going? Who do you want to go meet? I'm very surprised it's taken this long for y'all to answer.
Jonathan,
I mean,
go first.
I have my answer.
Damn it! Why? What was the question?
I'd go to the coffee bar, says chat.
What was the question?
I'd go to Jacob
you walk.
and ask him to like jam. And it's like, hey, let's make some music.
Yeah.
Come on.
All right, you walk into a room, right? To your
Kanye
left
would
is
just
Kanye
sample me.
West. To your right is Jacob Collier. Who are you going to go talk with? And what I'm really getting at is put 1,000 random people from the population into that scenario. Which direction are they going? It's like, Jacob who? Kanye's over here.
Yeah.
Right? How many people would even recognize that dude? Right?
So,
I'd step over to Kanye, see Jacob start getting sad, and then walk over to Jacob.
Yeah, I don't think he's that hungry for your attention, though.
Yeah.
Is the only problem.
no.
Whoa! We're not playing. We're not role playing. Okay, I cast Magic Arrow. I'm just joking.
So I would. This is actually more difficult than I thought it would be. Kind of like what they're saying in chat. I'd go to the coffee bar. I'm not super interested to talk to either, and I'm not disregarding Jacob Collier as a composer or musician or anything like that. Again, I think he's brilliant. He's just not my style, and I'm not super interested in the stuff that he has to say. And he's talked about, I mean, I've watched his videos on like negative harmony theory and all kinds of stuff. And, I don't know. I'm just not super interested in his compositional style.
Is it because his name is Jacob?
No, it's not. I promise it's not.
Like, if your name was Toby, would you have like a different opinion about him?
Is it
No.
because of the way he spells his name? If his name was spelled not like yours, would you accept it?
That's not, no, this is not the reasoning. Again,
You should change your name to Yakov already.
I don't know. I like a mature adult, I think, can recognize that you can respect something without liking it, and I respect the heck out of Jacob Collier and everything that he does, and I think it's awesome, but I don't actually just enjoy his music or his compositional style very much. Yeah.
I get it.
And so in the room with him and Kanye West, well, what does Kanye West have to offer? And I'm like, well, if it's just me in the room, right, or just us four and not 1,000 people, Kanye West either offers a positive or negative experience with Kanye West of like, oh wow, that dude's a total jerk, or oh, he was such a nice celebrity or something, which is totally worthless and meaningless. Or B, potentially talk to him about the business side of music. I don't know, like talk to him about that, which is valuable information as well. I would just be interested Actually, I'm going to pick Kanye West more so because I'm really interested to pick the brain of a person who's in the whole, like, Hollywood star scene, right? What is that person like? What is the area really like? Like, what is that high tier, excessively wealthy lifestyle like? That's what I'm more interested in, actually.
I think he's just gonna throw parables at you. He's gonna be like, slavery is a choice, and you're just gonna be like, what? And you're like, huh? Business, huh? And he's just gonna throw
He's
stuff at
Jesus, bro. He's Jesus Christ. He's not gonna have anything to say to you that you're gonna want to hear. But at least you would learn that. That is a lesson.
A lesson in like, oh, I wasted my opportunity to go see Jacob Collier, talk to him for hours, maybe.
Yeah,
I feel like that guy can ramble.
See, now that you're saying that, missing the opportunity to talk to Jacob Collier, I'm actually, I don't know. It's a toss-up. I'd be happy with either. How about that? Does that work?
Done.
No, I mean, but you could you could have a jam session with him there because that's what he does with some people. Just with his voice.
Kanye?
Jacob Collier.
Oh, Jacob Collier.
Well, Kanye too, probably, but it's a different genre.
Those two should jam together. Kanye and Collier.
That'd be dope.
Next hit album right there, Kanye and Collier. You heard it here first. If they do this, I'm suing.
That'd be pretty cool, actually.
I think so. I would listen to that album. Kanye on vocals, and Jacob Collier writes everything.
Oh yeah, that'd be unbelievable.
Oh.
So, okay,
All right.
what do you guys think about this? I talked to, like, I really love flamenco and stuff, but one thing that always puzzled me was the style of singing. That is just, that's the way it is. That's the way it's done. And it always sounded like it was yelling, screaming, like, ah, just like, and I was like, how are they doing that without, all the time? And I got a chance to talk with a flamenco singer, and I asked her, I was like, how do you guys do that every night? She's like, we don't. We can only do this about 1 or 2 times a week. And after, like, she's like, we don't talk for like a certain amount of time. We just have to rest. And she's like, we're slowly damaging our voice over time. And like, if you think of these flamenco shows, it's like, like the videos that I would see of like the old singers that would do this, they got a cigarette in one hand, they got like a whole bunch of whiskey, and it's just like, that's the way it's going on all night, and they're just going for it. And over time you hear like the voice start to kind of corrode, but the way they see it, it's like, this is the art that we do, this is what we live for, and we're gonna do it until the voice gives out. What do y'all think about that?
I think that if you're playing baseball, there's no way to pitch without slowly damaging your shoulder, right? There are certain skills that there's no way to even do them without doing some damage to you. Even jogging as a casual exercise thing does slow wear and tear to your knees. So, you know what? I don't want to be in their position, but I respect their position, and I know that it gives their life meaning, and that's what makes it art for us, right? It's like they are slowly being beaten down by this for my entertainment dollar, right? That's yeah. What about you?
I'll go, and then Jonathan. So I mean, I think like the first question that has to be raised is, can they do that with a healthy technique and they just never learned, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not really like in the culture to go through classical voice training or something. And I wonder if they can do the same type of stuff healthy. And if they can, that's such a shame that they're hurting themselves every night. But beyond that, I mean, I think it's exactly what Brain was saying. Like, you do baseball or you do any career. I think about this, the sacrifice that we make going through music school, like the stress of music school. This much stress is not healthy for us. We go through that stress because we want to be the educated and the well performing musician or whatever, right? And so it's just your body sacrifice, unfortunately, is a thing, and it happens to everyone in every career. I think I don't think there's any stuff.
Nope. You ever seen Barber's Knuckles?
Oh wait, what?
Have you ever seen a barber's knuckles that have been
No.
snipped time after time after time? I mean, there's no job you can have. You don't lose something.
Does it? What is it? I mean, I can't recall it from my head. Is it kind of like how in Indian music they'll like do some crazy stuff with their voice during their religious songs? You know, does it sound like that?
I mean, it's the influence is there for sure from that sort of
I didn't know that.
Indian, Middle Eastern side. Tell me to guess, yeah. I don't know if it was that whole sound thing again, where it's like, it's that tone that what if it's only created unhealthily? That's the only way to get that sound, it's like, would it be better to just learn classical technique and then have the sound be compromised? Or should you just do it unhealthy? And it's like, there's the tone that we want, that we're paying for, that we want for that.
Exactly. I mean, even your fingers get callous playing guitar. You give something up.
They'll survive.
I mean, do you like? I don't know. It just raises the question if the sound can be produced healthily, right? And it's like Sarah saying in the chat, people, so many people in the early 2000s blew out their voice doing harsh vocals, not recognizing that the ones who were doing it for real were doing it in a healthy manner, and other people were like literally just screaming and doing that like tearing up of their larynx, right? Or I guess their vocal folds or whatever. I think there's a healthy way to do it. The sound's going to be a little different maybe, but I don't know.
If I ever go back to music school and decide that I'm going to get like a master's or a doctorate and I have to write a dissertation or something,
Or a
I'm going to
bachelor's.
find out, I'm going to find a dissertation, or I'm going to find an answer to this question, because it's bugged me for years. Is there a healthy way to sing flamenco without no compromising the sound, like that tone that we want?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question. And I wonder if they would know or not. They probably don't even know. If they're not trained, they probably don't know.
I want to hear like a trained person try to sing flamenco. I need to do some research, honestly.
Yes.
What's a good person to listen to for flamenco?
I really love Miguel Poveda. He's really cool.
Miguel?
Uh-huh.
When you go from your like speaking
Poveda.
straight up American accent and then to your Spanish voice, and it's like I didn't get a word of that. It's like your accent even changes. Just speaking Spanish, your accent changes.
It does.
It's weird.
You should also check out Camarón de la Isla.
What?
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be insensitive to the language, but the way it's like I can.
Now I'm trying to like purposely make it even more Spanish sounding than.
Yeah, you're pronouncing things very differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
So do I call him Cameron?
Cameron. That's funny.
All right.
All right.
Next topic.
Hello.
Brain, Jonathan, either of you, take it away.
Brain.
All right, done. Okay, so my umbrella subject here, and I think Josue is going to like this. My umbrella subject is farewell tours by bands, okay? And I've kind of broken the idea of doing a farewell tour into 4 kind of sub questions, right? Is it a good idea or a bad idea? When is it that time to retire? Right? That's a question every musician on that level has to ask themselves, right? How do you feel about bands that do second and third farewell tours, and you thought the last one was the farewell tour, but oh no, this one is, and no, this one is now for real this time, they promise, and it's just a ploy to get money. And then fourthly, how you feel about some bands that go on tour and maybe I like that.
That comes
But
on
I don't-
stream, dude.
Oh man, oh yeah.
Quoting me. So yeah, and how do you feel about bands that maybe go out on these farewell tours and you can tell, like, man, one of the guys has passed away, and the 3 of you that are left are old and not good anymore, and you're out of tune, and I can pretty much tell you're playing along with tracks and you're just lip syncing, and it's just honestly disappointing, So let's go back to that first one. Is it a good idea or a bad idea? And when is it that time to hang it up? That is a deep topic. Hanging it up.
Well, I mean, isn't it like they're gonna make hella money?
That's
And
true.
That's like the main reason they're doing it. Because
That's pretty much always the case, right? They need money. Let's do a.
if that's the reason, I'm going to do a
tours.
farewell tour right now.
who can we name
Let's
doing
all
that?
a farewell tour. No, for real. Let's think about that. When is it that time as a musician for each of you individually? Think about this.
Gilberto! Sorry.
Rooster in the chat. Okay.
Oh, is he really? Oh, dang.
So when it, well, I mean,
The day hold on. The day you pick up your horn and you think to yourself, it's that time. What do you have to hear coming out of your horn? Like, what does it take? Arthritis, or talk to me, anyone.
Oh no, my fingers.
So
Maybe you lose your teeth. I can't play anymore.
so
I can still make an amish.
in general, so first of all, I would say that are they a good idea? Sure, as long as you let the closer be a closer, and that, I know that kind of answers another question, but I'm very much so of the idea that an ending needs to be an end. And I would be the type of person, if I was in a band, I would probably not wait till I'm in my 60s or 70s to do the farewell tour. And I know I'm saying that without the experience of being on tour and big bands and stuff. And the reason these bands probably do the farewell tours multiple times is because they can't live without that high that they've got from being on stage and stuff. I've heard bands talk about that, like the high of being on stage, and they don't know how to live life other than doing that, right? They never learned how to live a normal life. And so, I mean, I would, I would just say that, like, for me, I would recognize that it's an end first. I would have to know that I'm committed to ending it, right, before I do it. Otherwise, it's not a good idea. If I'm not committed to ending it, I'm just going to go do the other side project that I want to do without doing a farewell tour. Otherwise, do the farewell tour and move on. I think about, like, TV shows. Like, I want TV shows that... So, like, Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan made the choice to end it after 5 seasons, even though it had more viewers than ever at the time. Because he was like, before this show goes to crap, I'm ending the story here. And I'm like, that's very much so my mentality with music, too. Go ahead.
No, and but not when is it time to not tour in the band, but when is it time for you to hang the instrument up on the wall, or at least stop playing in a professional type of sense?
Never.
When you drop dead.
Yeah, I
True.
don't think I would ever stop
That's it.
playing.
Yeah,
That's it.
even if it hurts a lot, right? No, so how much of your playing has to be compromised? If at your peak, let's say we're all 100% right now, and we can only go down, is 50% the least acceptable number you'll accept, and you won't make people pay money for that? Like, how do you know when you can't offer what you can stand by as an artist anymore?
So I mean, I can say right now that I've dropped in skill and I'm not at my 100%. I was at my 100% on electric bass probably 2.5 years ago, and I've dropped in skill. I know I'm significantly a worse player than I was before, and it's just because I'm not practicing all the time. It's not constantly in my focus. I don't think I have a problem with it either way. Even if I'm just eventually laying down only root notes and just sitting in the pocket with the drummer, I'm like, whatever.
Shit, yeah.
Unless I
don't-
can't play with musicians, unless I'm so bad that my like timing gets off or something, then
That starts to happen.
Do you guys, maybe Jonathan would know, have you ever heard of Gary Burton? He was this jazz vibraphone player who retired. He retired because his perfect pitch started to go away. And he said, he's like, I'm never going to play at that top level anymore. So he decided to retire from music.
I've definitely heard the name from Brandon, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That sucks.
And that's so interesting because I mean, I'll just bring this up a little bit. That's the curse of perfect pitch. People think that perfect pitch is this awesome thing, but it actually is really difficult for you to learn like the basics of theory and ear training and to transpose stuff. And then when you get old, your perfect pitch starts to shift in pitch. Gets a little sharp, gets a little flat. What you thought is a C is no longer a C.
Like, can it be that bad that you're like a semitone off?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Dude, it
That's
can get
tough.
so bad you can't hear at a certain volume. And I've heard stories about people who blew their hearing out and they come to town, right, to play a gig. They're like, I can't hear my monitor. And it's like, dude, your amp's on 10, the monitor's dying, you're feeding back like crazy. We're doing everything we can just to keep you from feeding back, and the whole time you're complaining you can't hear. Yeah, you're deaf, man. I agree. You can't hear. Yeah, it happens with age and with abuse, and we all know what it's like to be in a big band rhythm section, and when the trumpets are doing a shout or when the drummer's doing big hits and it's just killing your ear. Man. In fact, I have a friend named Todd who plays
Dot.
who takes lessons from a guy named Butch Miles, who wears one hearing aid in his ear from his ride cymbal, and he's a jazz drummer for those who don't know. His hearing has gone out in one ear, and he wears this hearing aid, and sometimes during the lesson it'll be going beep, and he has to say, Butch, your thing's beeping, right? And it is what it is. So is that about all on the when is it that time? Because Jacob kind of stretched into the realm of bands that do second and third farewell tours to like squeeze money out, or like maybe they just aren't getting the high anymore. That's something I'd like to hear more about. And also how you feel about bands that go out like Ozzy, for instance, who probably shouldn't be playing, but because they can pack a stadium full, they sell the tickets and wheel him out on stage. And he's nothing like he used to be.
I wouldn't go.
I would go see that. Yeah, just to see him.
one of the worst things I can think of is I go out on a farewell tour and people come see me and they leave not going, man, I'm going to miss him, but they go, man, he has slipped. He has gotten old. You know, I see
True.
why.
Yeah, that's a good
Ouch.
point. Who was it? Meatloaf, right? Didn't that happen with Meatloaf? Something happened with his hearing or his vocal cords or something. And he used to be a great singer, and there's like this really famous video on YouTube or something of him like singing just terribly. And I forget what happened. It was some medical condition or something, but he just like can't sing at all anymore. And it's really sad.
What I want to know is like shows like that from the perspective of a regular person, somebody that's not a musician, somebody that doesn't understand music, and it's like how would they appreciate it? Would they be like, "Oh my gosh, I got to see Ozzy, who I wanted to see since I was a kid, the music, blah blah blah. Oh my gosh, my life is fulfilled." And if we're sitting there, we're just like, "Oh yeah, don't do that. Yeah, voice is slipping or whatever." What do y'all think about that?
I had this side thought. I wanted to ask, and it's pretty much guaranteed that a progressive rock band or something like that is going to have to stop touring way before a band that just plays blues tunes, right? Because of the intensity of the music. That has a huge part. And I had to put this forward, that there are still bands, though, like Rush, who, because they live a clean, sober life, right, they're able to be healthy and vibrant late into their years and still play at a great level, right? And age has done things to Geddy Lee's voice, right? But they deserve an honorable mention, in my opinion. And that's something to think about. What's up?
So it's funny because before you said Rush, my first thought was, oh, is Rush still touring? And so I looked it up, and the first thing here is super relevant. Rush have been completely inactive since their R40 live tour wrapped up 4 years ago now. How are we going to say it? Is it Neil Peart? Neil Peart? How do we want to say it, guys?
We got to ask him. Can somebody go message him?
Let's say Peart, because that's how I would pronounce it. Neil Peart says that playing concerts at his age causes too much painful wear and tear on his body, and he'd rather be at home with his wife and young daughter. For all practical purposes, he is now retired.
What's wrong with that?
But they played a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, everyone respects Rush, and I told that story last week about how the band that I walked in and they offered me like the smoke as soon as I walked in, and I was like done with it. Because I'm not saying that people necessarily have to be sober musicians, but I would rather be a sober and healthy musician than one that's like, drinking every night on tour, and you're already destroying yourself by going on tour, right? You don't need to be like killing your body anymore. So.
Ooh, I definitely took the beer and the weed.
Well, what are you gonna do?
Beer and weed, but that's it. None of the hard shit, and neither of them intensively.
Yeah, no.
In fact, I'm wondering how Josue can afford all those instruments I see in the back. And I'm thinking maybe he's selling something in his free time. Or I know better than to tell about you and Santiago and his people.
He's definitely not making that money off of music, right?
Thank you.
So.
Hell.
Wow.
That's we don't talk. We're not going to talk about that. But yeah, I have ways.
I want a double bass too.
All right, so yeah, that's essentially my topic is, when to hang it up and all about farewell tours and all that kind of thing.
I mean, I would end it early. That's my mentality. I would end it early and commit to an ending.
End on a good note. And I think a lot of labels, unless you had something to say, Jacob.
No, go ahead.
A lot of labels, I think, plan this. I think they take a band like the Eagles, whose partying and there's some distress in the band, and they go, you know what? Y'all should break up. Quote unquote, everyone goes solo. The music you've already put out will just gain popularity in the background while you all spread yourselves out into the music community individually. Then when you have a reunion tour, it's like the Eagles. You're playing Don Henley songs, Joe Walsh songs, Glenn Frey songs, plus the whole back catalog of the Eagles, right? And now you have a whole set list that's 2 hours long and it's hits. No filler at all. Right? And it seems a little planned. Like, yeah, let's go on hiatus or break. Everyone goes solo, then rejoin.
That would be exhausting on the ears to hear 2 hours of hits, I think.
All the
Yeah, not when it's done by the Eagles live and they're hitting you over the head. No, they pull it off.
I have a fun fact.
Let's hear it.
So I think he's still alive, but Sonny Rollins, he like still gigs, even though he's like, or like I think he was still playing in his like 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
I have another fun fact.
Okay.
What?
So I was thinking of all the jazz musicians that are famous: Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Charlie Parker, the Burden guy, Sonny Rollins, and I came to a conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a jazz musician, you'll play until the drugs kill you, until life kills you, or until you lose your pitch. So that's all it takes.
I would also like to say, I think I won the music duo battle with Miles and Bill Evans. I don't think anyone had anything better than Miles and Bill Evans.
I disagree.
What was yours? I actually forgot.
George and Ira Gershwin.
I get that.
I think I disagree with all y'all too, because I said Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones, who the two created like the best-selling records of, right, of all time.
I mean, yep. Miles Davis released the best-selling jazz record of all time. So
that's true, but that was solo, right?
True.
Is the best at his instrument. Bill's the best at his, and they were both together and made the most quintessential blues album in the whole universe of universes. And yeah, there's strong cases for all, and I still think Bach and the harpsichord might be the honorable mention that edges through the pack.
Maybe. Giswaldo and his dead wife or something. I don't know.
Boom. And Child. That might have been his. It just looked like it might have been his.
Jonathan and his Oreo.
Yo!
Sorry.
Man, I think earlier there was somebody in the comments that said, that fat kid is making me hungry. And I think they were talking about Jonathan.
Okay. I'm going to be real. I don't know who that is in the chat. Dat face in the sky, if you want to clear yourself up. But I was not having it because I was like, that's insulting. And even if it is a joke, it's insulting. And so I banned them for 10 minutes.
No, I mean, it's fine.
Only 10 minutes.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, y'all didn't see that go on. But, oh, no. I'm actually fatter than you are. I gained 30 pounds since getting married.
Bullshit.
No, I did.
You look exactly the same.
That's what everyone says, dude. And I get on the scale, and I'm no longer 175. I'm 205 now.
Did you hit the weights? Putting in muscle?
No, I actually lost muscle. I was the fittest I'd ever been the fall before I got married. And I've lost muscle. Anyway.
Jacob.
Wait, I'm gonna say, does Harmon and Jacob Collier bear any resemblance to you? It's like, man, they somehow seem similar.
We're not going to talk about random people on the stream. This is not interesting. But yes,
Jacob,
they're pretty similar.
I'll tell his address on this stream. But really, they remind me a little of one another.
And that person as a composer actually really likes Jacob Collier as well, so it's fitting.
Which person?
Marmon Helton.
Oh.
Don't you mean? Oh.
All right, let's move on. I would no to second and third farewell tours. If you do that, you're a sellout, and I don't like you. Boom, done. How about that?
Done.
Jonathan, what
With that
topic
whole-
you got?
Oh. The Oreos.
Okay. All right. Should we
All
go
right.
into my topic or Brain's
Yes.
second topic? All right, let's do it.
I have a great second topic, but let's do yours.
All right. So I know normally I bring a little heavier meat and potato topic, but this week my topic is a little bit more about just discussion than like raw information. So I want to talk about music as a competition, and music as a sport. So just little rundown on this. Obviously, music is competitive to some extent. I think, and I mean, I'll get you guys on that. But as you start to pick up an instrument, you look at all these people who are like way better than you, and the ones who you want to be like, and you're like, oh, I want to be like this guy and stuff. And that mentality in itself is kind of a competitive mentality, in that you want to be like really, really good, right? But not necessarily that you want to be good for the sake of being better than others. But that is a mentality that develops over time for some people, where you know, you get to a gig and you're like judging all the other musicians, and you're like get upset if they make a mistake or something, and you're like, I'm the best musician here and you shouldn't be making that mistake. That one chord should have been inverted instead of just playing it in root position, right? And so that's like, you know, that's a mentality that develops for some people, and I think a lot of people would say that there's no room for that. But this competitive nature is also built into the music school system, oddly enough, where it's like in the real world, if you get to a gig and you're being like a jerk about your competitive nature and looking down on someone, in the music world, it's kind of like the competition is pushed, right? And I mean, we've talked... Everyone has seen Whiplash at this point, right? It's the competition, right? The three different drummers, right, who are all trying for the chair or whatever. There's this competition that is used to push people forward as musicians, to get them to a better technical skill. And it raises the question, is that really what we should be doing to further ourselves as musicians and to further other people as musicians, to educate them? And then, well, yeah, I'll just dump it all out right now, and we'll have a big conversation about it. And the last point about it is, in the United States, we have competition, and Brain actually mentioned it earlier, and I'm so glad that he did. He mentioned UIL, and we have Allstate and stuff, and we have these competitions in the United States for my choir's better than your choir, my soloist singer's better than your soloist singer, my band is better than your band and stuff, and it creates this competition. But is that really the way that we should be going to educate people the best way? Or is it just like the director of the ensemble is trying to look really good or whatever, right? And then, furthermore, well, I'll add that last part later. Any thoughts so far on this?
Are you saying it's bad, or are you asking it's bad?
I'm asking, what do you think of music as a competition and as a sport? Because it's treated as a sport a lot of the time.
You're right. And what a great topic. And I would love to see my response to either Josue or Jonathan for now. But what a great topic. Damn.
Do you want to go, Josue, or me?
That's meat and potatoes.
You go.
Oh, I guess my first thought is it's not realistic, but at the same time, it's for like middle schoolers and high schoolers. So it's kind of like, what else are they gonna do? Like, that's probably the only exposure they'll get, right? Is through school and stuff. So I mean, I guess it's not a bad thing, because it gives them a reason to go home and practice, at least the ones that want to.
But should they be practicing for fame?
Oh wait, I was answering for UIL and
Yeah,
stuff.
same thing, right?
I mean, what do you mean fame? 'Cause nobody's famous that does UIL.
I don't know anybody who's won UIL.
Yeah, but like, what's the
That
point of
doesn't
the
count to.
competition other than fame,
Wait,
right?
Gilberto went to state for playing trumpet. I know somebody that went to state.
Oh,
Nice.
that's cool.
Yeah, he's pretty badass.
Kicking the rooster or whatever, right?
Yeah. Uh,
That's
but
awesome.
so what's the point? Like UIL and Allstate and stuff. The only point is fame, right? They're just competitions. What's the purpose of them as competitions other than fame? Like
Uh,
mini fame, like they're not Holly. Look at
it's
our all-state freshman soprano who's 14. She
wait.
should walk on the red carpet. No.
Well, I mean, for band, I thought it was a lot of like for scholarships, people that are gonna get music scholarships, they get like a lot of exposure through UIL. That's it.
I like competition. Competition's good.
You
Like
think?
pushes you to be a little bit better. Yeah. And I feel like whenever I go see people that are better than me, I'm just like, oh, that's so cool. And I want to get to that level. Like, I think it's been a long time since I ever judged somebody and I was like, oh, yeah, honey, you shouldn't be doing that. Or, yeah, that chord or whatever. Like, no, that doesn't happen to me. Like, I see other people and I'm just like, oh my gosh, wow, you're doing this. And I'm like, oh, I wanna, I feel like I got humbled a long time ago where it's like, okay, dang, everybody's better than me. And I'm just here trying to soak up all that they know. Um, and it's cool. It's cool. I mean, that sort of competitive nature just pushes everybody to kind of work on themselves and be at their best. Or, just keep going.
I have an insight into this. So it is UIL competitions and stuff like that are a way kind of for administration and superintendents to gauge the productivity of their band programs. I mean, because how good is a band director? Man, that's a tough thing to answer. And it's a very ethereal kind of question that requires this kind of understanding of both concrete and non-concrete and abstract ways that people teach music, right? Using descriptive adjectives and a whole host of things that most people aren't aware of, right? So some kind of concrete score. You made a 1, you made a 2, is a great way to kind of gauge how your players played objectively. And yeah, that's one insight that I've got from music education.
Are you so is it for competition through school only? Is what you're talking about?
No, just in general, but the school system has a tendency to be the one that pushes competition in all levels, right? Grade school up through college and everything.
I have an extensive answer to this. If anyone wants to talk, now's your time. Okay.
Playing drums is a sport for sure, though.
It is.
It's a workout. Go on.
Okay. So essentially, like, there is something to competition and comparison, right? Which the two go hand in hand, right? They're ugly cousins, comparison and competition. And this idea of seeing people who are much better than you, and there's this kind of ideal that you can strive towards, right? There's actually a circuit in your brain, which is a dopamine circuit. And we hear this trope all the time that the journey is more important than the destination. But there is something to be said that when an individual has this ideal or this destination and they're working towards it, measurably making progress, their dopamine circuits are running wild and they're getting tons of positive feedback. And I know in music school, the only way I could sit in a practice room for 4 hours and practice because of my lesson material demanding that for me was to have a dopamine circuit that was just flooded, right? And there is some science for, you know, for that, to back that up. And I don't know if y'all have considered that, and I'm sure that's on some people who are watching's radar. But yeah, think about it. What makes someone practice 4 hours a day, right? It's very hard to do. And I wanted to read you a quote because I read a book called The Talent Code, which discusses where does talent come from. And all right, how did one Russian tennis club with only one indoor court produce more top 20 players than the whole USA? Next, how did the tiny island of the Dominican Republic produce 1 out of every 9 top baseball players? 1/9 of all pros are Dominicans. Lastly, how did South Korea develop its ladies golf talent to be the top 20 winners in the past 20 years? Right? All of those places had one person who hyperachieved. Out of the Dominican Republic, there was some guy who started cranking home runs. And they reported that, like, the next day, there was a line down the block of Dominican kids who wanted to play baseball all of a sudden, right? And I hear stories about this tennis camp with one court in Russia after Maria Sharapova wins the Wimbledon Open or whatever it is. The next day, there's a line of blonde-haired, blue-eyed Russian girls stretching down the block, all wanting to enroll in the tennis program, right? And my last little sub-point is there was a time when no one had ever run a 4-minute mile. And then this Australian guy, who back in like the 60s, ran a 4-minute mile. The next week, 12 people did a 4-minute mile. And there's this weird thing that happens when we see someone do it, all of a sudden we know it's possible, right? And this idea of comparison and competition and setting an ideal forth gives you this physiological dopamine push to strive and to work and to practice. And it becomes addictive because it literally is. Literally. And I'll leave that kind of right there. I put out a lot of information, but it's all related to talent and competition and comparison.
Well said.
Go for it, Jacob.
So I've got a couple thoughts on this. First of all, so I'm extremely competitive in nature as a person. In fact, if anyone listening or any of you guys know what the Enneagram is, it's a personality test that basically works on your deepest like faults. And it's not like the Myers-Briggs or something where it's like, oh, you're an introvert and this and that, and it'll tell you you're good. Like, the Enneagram tells you all the terrible stuff about yourself. And basically, I took it, and I was like, yeah. Well, I'm glad I now have an excuse to tell people how extremely vain I am and how I care most of my day about what people think of me more than anything, right? And that comes from my competitive like nature, and or maybe that spawned the competitive nature and spirit in me or something like that, right? But the point is, caring about so much what other people think of me and then like succeeding, yeah, you're right. It scientifically, I'm sure it does release dopamine. It makes you feel good and stuff. But is that, it raises the question though. I mean, I would say that this trait of mine of always being super competitive is not a good one. I would say that this is actually quite a negative trait, and it has all kinds of problems. And so it raises the question, is being competitive in nature and having this music as competition. First of all, I like what you said about like as soon as it became available, the 4-minute thing, everyone did it. That reminds me like in music of like kind of the inverse. Like there's this common thing of like, you know, like a soprano in a choir singing a really high note, and they're like, I can't sing that, but just 5 minutes before they warmed up like a third higher than it. but it's like they're seeing a barrier. They're like, so many ledger lines, I can't possibly sing that. And it's like, you literally just did. You just didn't know that you sang higher than that, right?
That's funny.
But it's like the barrier, right? They see a barrier, whereas the 4-minute mile thing or whatever is like the barrier's unblocked, right, for those people. And they're like, oh, we can do this now. But it raises the question. By the way, someone in the chat said that guy in the red speaks truth. And you had a lot of really good points. But my biggest question is the competitive nature, is it healthy? Which actually it really brings into my next point very well, in that Allstate for solo vocalists, I think it is, or even choir, causes vocalists physical harm. And what happens is a lot of people who their bodies are not like ready or mature enough or trained enough to produce like high notes healthily, or like low notes really loud and healthy or whatever, right? Well, they produce them anyway for like Allstate and for competitions, because they're like, look, we have these notes and we can do this big stuff that's kind of difficult. And it's like, okay, yeah, but you did that so often, and you actually did it in an unhealthy way that you damaged your vocal cords at 16 or 17 years old or whatever, right? And it's kind of going back to what Josue was saying about the flamenco singers, right? About them like damaging their vocal cords for the music. And it's like, should we be damaging ourselves for the competition aspect? Does that matter? Like, because that's actually working kind of inverse, right? You're competitive to be better and to get good and to be awesome, but you're actually destroying yourself a little bit. So you're kind of working both directions. And that's all I got on that. Go ahead.
Well,
Not everybody all at once.
Well,
not everyone all at once.
the way you're leaning in, Josue, I feel like you have something to say.
No, I don't.
Okay, I'll say something.
Kind of just thinking.
Well, I mean, it's really what Brain said, like competition and comparison. They're similar, but they're not the same, right? I think comparison, like you said, how those people were able to jog after, to run a 4-minute mile after, was because they saw someone else do it, so they had faith in themselves after that or something. And then competitions, like we're being competitive is like, it's not the same. It's more like, I guess, looking towards yourself now. I don't know. That's I forgot my train of thought already.
I feel like comparison is the one that's unhealthier, right? Especially if you compare yourself to other people, you know?
Well, I'm saying it because comparison, like, it helps you, like, break your own barriers because you see that someone else has already done it.
That's if you compare yourself in a positive way. I feel like it comes from a lot from inside, right? Because you can compare yourself in a very negative way.
True. Let's just be positive.
I have an idea.
That's not
about
easy.
this,
We live
right?
in an age of social media where all we are is comparison. You see someone take their trip to, I don't know, Russia or whatever, and they're like having a great time in their life and they have money, and you're like jealous of it and you're comparing yourself. Why can't I go on a trip? I'm stuck in South Houston.
I want to go to Mother Russia.
So I think we can probably all agree on one thing, that the one pro for competition is that it pushes you to be better than you are, right? And there's a whole host of other pros, there's a host of other cons, but that's one anyone can agree on. It pushes you to be better. And to speak for music, I can't speak for anything else, but I know music. And when I'm on the bandstand with other really good players, that pushes me. And I really don't need to be pushed in the competitive way, in the practice room, and in that kind of way. Because I'm pushed to be better by being around good players, right? So maybe in music, it doesn't have that kind of a place. Maybe on the bandstand is kind of where we get that.
Yeah, like I have to push myself, right? When I'm practicing to focus harder, to try harder. It's not really like I'm thinking of someone else that's better than me.
Yeah, you're kind of in competition with yourself. I know I am pretty much the entire time.
Yeah.
See, and that's good. Then, like what you were saying, Josue, the comparison is the bad thing. I think competition with yourself is great. And I mean, Brain, you're exactly right. Again, with the dopamine thing, when you're practicing something and you finally get it right, oh man, that feels great. You're like, oh my gosh, I can do this now. And then you have to practice it like 1,000 more times because you don't practice till you get something right. You practice it till you can't get it wrong, right?
Amen.
But the comparison is like, no, I mean, is it Louis C.K. who had the quote about you never look in someone else's bowl to see if they have more than you. You look to see if they have enough, right? And the comparison is just like super, super unhealthy, I think. Can we all agree that comparison is super unhealthy?
I think I was saying it in a different light, but like, I mean, yeah, it can be really unhealthy.
Well,
yeah, I guess you can.
Brain.
I just agreed because you told me to.
I'm like on the fence because I want to be really specific, right? I would say there's like positive criticism or constructive criticism and unconstructive criticism. And part of me wants to say that that comparison can be good, but maybe if you say comparison's bad, but being honest with yourself about where you are as a musician is always good. And sometimes it takes seeing a great player to give us that perspective of honesty. Honesty with yourself is always going to be the best policy. I can't hear you. Did Josue disappear?
I wasn't saying he's gone. Yeah.
No, I'm still here, but
the honesty with
my neck hurts. I want to lay down.
Okay. The honesty with yourself is the competition with yourself, right? But yeah, recognizing where you are comparatively to other people. But that unless Jonathan, I saw you had your hand. Do you have something?
Oh yeah, it's because well, I mean, the way I saw comparison in a light is just like whenever I'm there on my horn and I'm transcribing, and it's like they're doing something that it's really like I don't know if I can do it, but the fact that I hear someone else doing it, they had to get there somehow. It makes me feel that I don't have to beat myself up. I'll eventually get there. I just have to keep working. And that's the comparison I thought was good.
Yeah.
Well, you asked the question, is it healthy? And I did want to come back to that competition in music. Is it healthy? And in personality assessments, competitiveness is correlated with high levels of or low levels of agreeableness or being highly disagreeable. Because what that literally means is I'm more interested in my own needs than yours, right? I'm disagreeable. And in the music community where people are so sensitive, it is a disadvantage. Being competitive can cause a lot of sore feelings, right? And a lot of sour impressions and can almost cause you to be ostracized, right? In your little music program. And so there is a fine balance between being competitive with yourself, but not disagreeable and like extremely competitive, right? And that's such a good topic, Jacob. I really can't commend you enough. And you prefaced by saying, oh, I usually bring meat and potatoes. And then you brought the wallop, man.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
So it's interesting talking about it in the specific music program because obviously, I mean, I am a person who went through that, right? I got super competitive for a while, and this is the whole process of applying to a school, and it's like scholarship money, and there's like that competitive nature, and am I gonna get in? Who's gonna get into the cool schools or whatever, right? Uh, and who's gonna get into like the name schools and stuff? Which, by the way, the more I'm realizing, your school doesn't matter that much. It's about the work that you put in more so than the school itself. So
Hell
Exactly.
yeah.
if you feel you need
Hell
to
yeah.
go to like a top end school or no school at all, you have the wrong mentality completely. But
That will remain to be seen.
but so I mean, I went through that. And then what's funny is I remember early in music school, someone was saying about someone else in that same process of like applying to schools and stuff, saying how it's like, well, I'm gonna beat you guys all and stuff. And they were complaining. They're like, or not complaining, but I guess gossiping about this person being like, who do they think they are? Like, it's not a competition, and they're not even that good, and this and that. And I'm like, okay, well, this is clearly bred tons of positivity, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Ooh.
It was clearly like all kinds of toxicity and stuff. And I don't even remember who the people that we were talking about were, so it doesn't even matter. But I think, I don't know. From my perspective, it seems generally unhealthy. But it's interesting that you guys don't see it as unhealthy, and maybe I only see it as unhealthy because I'm on the more extreme end of competitiveness. Like my whole life is kind of doing things for competition, and that probably has to do with the fact that I'm the youngest of 6 siblings and was raised with older brothers and stuff. And you know, I realized that once I was good enough at video games to beat other people, I was like, oh well, I guess I'm gonna go do my own thing now. And anyway, that's a whole other story. But the competition is bred in me, and I'm trying my best not to live a life of competition. Um, but then it raises the final question on my point is, how do you guys feel when someone shows you or you stumble upon a YouTube video of something that's like a really young musician who's like better than you are? They're like, look at this 11-year-old who's like unreal, or look at this player who's like, not, they don't even have to be like 11. They could be 16 or something. Like we were talking about earlier, Spalding, right? She's kind of our age, I think. Maybe she's a little older than this, but she's like just, or Jacob Collier is a great example too, right? Just young, super successful, but people also like younger than us who are more successful than us. How do you guys feel about them, about yourself as a musician, et cetera, when you see this kind of stuff?
I want to meet them. I want to jam with them. I'm just like, dude, let's make music. I don't know. Teach me.
That's dope.
I'm just really malleable, I think. I just like learning from everybody.
Isn't
I
malleable?
remember I
when
used
you're-
to get envious. I'm just like, ah. But now the older I get, I'm just like, whatever.
I like that.
Dude.
I
All
also.
right. Go on.
Never mind.
You also.
Brain, go.
He's talking to his mother. Okay. To be honest, I get jealous. I get envious. I get a little upset, and it personally hurts when I see these kids that are that good, because I know music is such a fruitful language to speak in, right? And there's so much fun in exploring it. And if they're already that far down the line at that point, the amount of caves they're going to get to explore and the amount of stuff they're going to get to figure out is just beyond what I'm going to get to in my life. And I'm jealous, right? I'm jealous. And it makes me want to just learn as much as I can.
It doesn't make you want to like quit your instrument or something.
Never, never.
No.
But I really hope that those kids are listening with their head and their heart, and that it's not just being a technician, because anyone can operate a machine with fluency, right? And a saxophone, a piano, guitar, those are all machines that you can operate with fluency with enough practice, right? And I just hope that their heart is in it and that they're getting out of it what I would be getting out of that if I could play that, right? Like, I hope that's what you're getting. But they seem to be usually blank-faced and just kind of Suzuki method kids who fly through list.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm at a point where I'm comfortable enough in my musicianship skills, and that, you know, I still have a long way to go. But like I teach students that I'm just like, man, you're gonna become so good when you're my age. You're gonna like blow me away, and it's just so exciting. I'm just like, oh man, I can't wait for you. You know what has in store. It's like, you know, I'm like nothing compared to what you're gonna be, and I feel like it's just, it makes me really happy, you know, to see that other people are, you know, I follow some people on Instagram that are like really young. Like Jacob, I don't know if you know this kid named Gabriel something. He's a blonde kid that plays bass.
Mm.
Man, he plays like Jocko and stuff, and I'm just like, man, that's so cool. I'd love to meet this kid and just play like drums with him or something. I don't know. But you know, I don't really feel. I feel envious of the people that obviously suck and that have so much like views and stuff, and I'm just like, dude, you're this is literally awful, but people eat it up.
Yeah.
Are you talking about me? I'm just joking. No, don't be quiet.
Jonathan, do you have any thoughts on that? I have a reply to Josue, but Jonathan, I want you to have a chance first.
Oh, I think I used to like feel really, I guess, relinquished by that. Like if I see a kid and he's so good at the saxophone, but then like with maturity and age, I realized it doesn't really matter. Like I'm just playing the saxophone because I like it. So
Yeah.
I'm so simple, guys.
No, so I agree, and it's interesting that we all have kind of similar perspectives on it. First of all, I want to say, Josue, you brought up an interesting point about like being happy for the kids about how good they are and being like, man, you're gonna be so good when you're our age and stuff. That's interesting because thinking about the competition nature, there are certain musicians that I know I'm actually just thrilled for them, and I don't see a competition at all. And maybe this is because we're friends or something, but like Josue, when you quit voice lessons and you started doing all this teaching and stuff, you got way better as a musician, and you're like teaching and you're doing all this great stuff. And I'm like, I don't even see a competition nature between us four, right? Like at all. I'm actually just like Brain, when you started teaching at SFA as a private lesson position, I'm like not jealous of that. I'm like, that's awesome, and I'm so excited that you get to do that and you get to be in music doing this stuff, you know. And it's just like super cool. But then so final thoughts, I suppose, and this reminded it's not actually it wasn't my final point, but I was reminded of the thought earlier. Do you think that the sport aspect and the competitive aspect of music makes people enjoy it less? Would more people be willing to speak their musical language and do their thing if there wasn't a competitive and sport nature attached to it at all?
Wow.
Hello?
Someone.
There's no delay. Is there a delay or something?
Yes, maybe. To answer your
I
question
have a delay.
directly off the bat, maybe it would make people more welcome in the program.
Well, I don't know what this competition. What competition in music are we talking about? Where is it?
Literally everywhere. Just this idea of
3 examples.
so I mean you have in music school, right? And then you have performance competitions to get roles, right? In like musicals or whatever. And then I would say there is occasionally those people who get to a gig and are all concerned about the quality of the other musicians on the gig, right?
Oh,
Which is what we talked about earlier, where it's like, you're playing with people who, Victor Wooten doesn't care if you're the hottest cat on stage while he's playing with you. He has a whole speech about this. Actually, this is a perfect transition. Victor Wooten has a speech about how he's like, we didn't teach you all these words and stuff. You just picked it up by being around us. You picked up the English language by being around us, right? And you pick up music by being around us. He's like, and us as great musicians can make you sound good, and you can learn to speak musically just by being around us, right? But not everyone has that mentality. Some people get on stage and they're like, how are you messing up and how are you sucking and stuff right now?
You're not making changes on giant steps.
Yeah, you're
What's
just
wrong with you?
you're
Make the
just
changes.
butchering a solo and it gets put on the record, but it's not actually following the changes at all.
oh, okay.
So would people enjoy it? Do you think people would enjoy music more if there was no competitive nature?
Look, well, I want to look at this from a different angle. People often will quit sports or physical fitness type activities because they're just not good, right? Football, basketball, baseball, you name it. If it exists, people have quit it because they weren't good, right? And they often feel ashamed, right? And I know my mother, for instance, has quit a workout class before because she felt like she wasn't fit enough to hang, right? And all those people quit because it reveals something in them that is a weakness to everyone else, like maybe their fitness level, right? So in music, what are they revealing to everyone in their insufficiency that makes them self-conscious enough to want to go run and hide and shy away and not lean into the spotlight but flee from it, right? I don't know.
Well, like,
go ahead, Jonathan.
if you ask me to play giant steps, I'm gonna freaking back down and cry like for my mom, dude, because that's like I can't even do that. I can't even do nothing right now. But that's because I suck.
Why would you back down?
Right. Why would you? Why would you not just attempt it and just play?
Well, I mean, I have attempted it before, and it's because while I'm attempting it, I just feel like unprepared. Like this is not the moment. I'm not prepared. I didn't even study for the test. It's like I'm gonna fail. All of this.
See,
and why are you afraid to fail? Go on, Jacob.
Well, I was gonna say, but Jonathan, this specific example is you soloing over the changes for giant steps, which is not actually something you technically can't do, right? It's not like you physically can't play list at 200 BPM stuff, whatever. This is actually a solo is actually your expression. This is just your voice. So even though you're not the most proficient speaker in the language of giant steps, why would you not at least try to speak?
It wouldn't. Okay, I could try if you want me to, but it just won't sound good. Like I won't be doing giant steps any justice. I wouldn't be making the expectations.
But that's the learning process. The learning process is that.
What I'm after here is, Jonathan, you would feel vulnerable if we asked you to go on stage, right, in solo on giant steps. Clearly, you would feel very vulnerable. What are you afraid of being exposed, though? Why do you feel vulnerable?
I don't have the best.
What's
okay.
up?
Oh no, it's like, okay, what am I vulnerable? I don't have the best ear, so like I won't be able to even know immediately if we're playing in what key we're even playing it in, you know? And then also like my vocabulary is not good. Like there's a bunch of like insecurities that would just come out of me at that time.
Why are you insecure if you play in the wrong key?
Because it's giant steps. Because it's music, you should be playing in the right key.
Yeah, so Josue, or unless Jacob wants to dovetail on that.
I was just gonna say Ornette Coleman didn't care about that stuff.
No, didn't give a damn. Josue, what we were just talking about is people might shy away from music because of the competition. And I was saying how people shy away from exercise classes or sports like basketball and football because they're not good at them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they shy away from them because it exposes a hole in their character, which is, oh, I'm not physically fit, right? And it makes me feel inferior, so they run off and don't engage in it. And people who quit music, right? What are they feeling? Is exposed, right? What hole are they showing that makes them want to run and hide from the spotlight and not play?
Could be any number of things, right?
This is purely philosophical.
Okay.
Or actually, the first one was evolutionary. To be honest, humans in public want to display signs that they're fertile and healthy, right? And men engaging in sport and doing poorly at least shows that one of those isn't the case. I'm not physically fit, right? And people literally shy away because evolutionary markers that they're trying to maintain are being squashed because to everyone else, their inequity is revealed, right? But in music, what is that being revealed? Why are they self-conscious? Is it like I'm showing you a piece of my heart and you've rejected a piece of me, right? Like, what is it? It's purely philosophical.
I definitely think so. I definitely think it is a piece of you, and that it's a voice, right? And specifically like the voice as an instrument is a good example of this, where I don't think there's a single person on the planet who very clearly says, I don't want to be able to sing, right? I think everyone wants to be able to sing to some extent because it's how they express it's the most inner expression, or it's the most clear expression of you, right, as a person, is the voice, because it is you. It's literally physically you, which is why so many people are insecure about their singing, because more than anything, that's them, right? Whereas if I suck at piano, and I've never played piano before, it's whatever.
It's the piano's fault.
But if I suck at singing, that's me, right? But all music's really the same thing, where all music is really, it's me, right?
Yeah, it's you.
It's you in what way?
If I got called up on stage to play drums for, like, I don't know, Jonathan Kreisberg, I feel like I'd just be like, oh my gosh, this is going to be terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Just because, man, first of all, you don't even feel like you're adequate enough to even, like, breathe the same air that they're breathing around there. And then it's like, I would just get nervous and just be like, crap, you know. But, and I'm pretty sure, well.
Right. I
I
feel
feel
you.
like you have to make a decision. Am I gonna run away from it for good, or am I just gonna shed? And although I don't know. Hmm.
Mm.
If you
It's-
if you go through it and then you suck, and then suddenly everybody knows that you suck, and then nobody will want to play with you.
no one.
No one.
They're
Everybody's gonna find out real quick. So maybe people want to avoid that situation so that doesn't happen. And in the meantime, they're just like, okay, I need to just get ready myself to, I don't know. At the same time, you can keep practicing all you want, but, if you don't get out there and, seek that, it's not really going to happen. You got to take off from the nest, I think, at some point.
All right. So,
Jacob, what you got?
all right. So basically, you said you don't even feel like you would be justified to breathe the same air as like Jonathan Kreisberg or something. And that mentality is only existing because of the competitive nature. And again, it brings me back to the Victor Wooten thing. You would be happier, I think, without that competitive nature that's inbred into society about it, right? Because like Victor Wooten said, and he's demonstrated, I think it was his TED Talk, if you haven't seen his TED Talk, I think he like brings someone on stage who's never played bass in their life, and they're like playing one note or something, and the whole band can play with them and make them sound good, even though that person can't play in time or anything. And I'd like to think that Jonathan Kreisberg and their band could do the same thing. And I think they probably wouldn't like crap on you. They would probably actually try to work with you and make you sound good.
That's
And
probably really true.
make
Yeah.
the like make the ensemble sound good and make music. And
Actually, you know what? I think me and Kreisberg could make some good music.
well, now your head's just getting big, but
It wouldn't be as good as that drummer that he's got, but I feel like, we could survive
for
a
sure.
jam. A jam. I don't know as many of his songs though to be able to like keep up with him. Like if it was that kind of gig where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, come play my songs. No.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Do
that's
you want to jam? Sure.
No, and if you were to go take like a gig with him where you're playing standards, he'd want to play Solar, Nardis, Impressions, Black Narcissus. He'd want to play Goodbye Pork Pie Hat, all these far out tunes that are hard to do. And yeah, it would be a tough night, man. I should try this. I should just put on a live set of them playing and try to hang for the night. But it wouldn't be the same because they're not making space for me. Like Jacob said, great
That's
musicians make space for each other. And it takes, and you know what? I was talking earlier about playing with other good musicians, and this happens to me all the time. Someone will play something, and then I play it back just because I have nothing better to do, right? And then they play something else, and then I play that back, and then I get the look like, okay, I bet you can't play this. And then they play it, and of course I play it back, right? No, but, and then there becomes that little game, and then maybe they play something I can't play. So I just respond to it instead of trying to mimic it, right? Mm-hmm. And now we're playing a whole new game, right? And there's just so much conversational activity. And the whole time it's making me think on the fly, on the bandstand creatively about how I can call and respond. And yeah, I'm learning and being pushed in a big, big way in those moments. And it has nothing to do with this kind of Kobe Bryant, competition. It's not like I'm a fighter.
But, okay, Jacob, I feel like in my case, I actively seek out uncomfortable situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, oh, this is going to suck. Let's go. and let's see what I get out of it. I feel like I enjoy that,
What have you ever gotten? What's the worst situation you've gotten the most from?
Maybe this one, playing metal,
Mm.
attempting to play metal when I don't know the language, but I'm getting a lot out of it. I had no choice whatsoever. Jacob literally said, "I want you to play this." And I'm just like, "Bro, I don't even know how to play. What?"
Incorrect.
And he's just like,
That's not true.
"Go,
I
do it."
asked him a long time ago, way before any of you guys knew it existed.
Did you really?
No way.
I did.
I have a bad memory, man. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. But I literally asked you. I was like, "Hey, can I write some double bass stuff and do this?" I asked you way early in the process of writing it. But yeah.
I probably
Jonathan-
knew that it would make me uncomfortable, and I was like, whatever, just go for it.
It's almost 10 o'clock.
It is.
It is.
And we should be wrapping this up. But yeah, I mean, what you were saying about the uncomfortable situation thing, that was basically exactly my point. Is we should be putting ourselves in situations. You never want to be the best musician in a room. You want to be the worst person in the room, so you play with people and get better. You want to be put into the terrible situation of go on stage and solo over giant steps, even though you've never done it and you don't even know what key they're in, right? Just because it's going to make you a better musician, even if you look stupid, right? And again, that raises the competition nature, right? Do you care more about looking stupid than you do about becoming a better musician? Because if you don't go up on stage, that sounds more like you care about looking stupid than being a better musician.
Case closed. Go up on stage.
I think
Understood.
All right, you heard it, kids. You heard it, kids.
so. So, last question, just one answer. Go around the circle. Is music a sport? Go. Brain.
No.
Jonathan.
No.
This way?
Yes.
I'm gonna say no.
But
Okay.
I think that's about right. I think it's 3/4 is no and 1/4 yes. Sounds about right to what people think. Right.
Actually, no. I actually think no, but everybody was answering no, and I was like, I might as well stir controversy. And
Okay,
say
yes.
Well, we were trying to
I kind of-
close the
yeah.
podcast.
Be-
not
because I
start.
know for me it's not. Yeah. It's only the physical act of hitting stuff that's tiresome.
Well, you know what's interesting? It is something that's introduced in middle school as an elective and then taught as a specialized skill through high school. And you can go into college for it and get your degree and get accepted on it the same way you would audition for basketball or baseball.
It's true.
And you can then go pro after college in it.
It's true.
And make lots of money, hopefully. And there's a select amount of people who have a lot of success in this field and a whole lot of people who are dreamers. And there are a ton of parallels, right?
It is treated like a sport, which was the whole point of this conversation. It is treated like a sport, despite everyone saying that it's not.
You know what? There's one that is a sport. Marching band.
Yeah, actually,
That
that
is
one's pretty
ridiculous.
sporty. It's competitive and it functions a lot like a sport. Yeah, it's true.
That's a good argument, Josue.
I
You know
still
what's
don't think
something-
it is, but it's probably the
I
closest.
definitely find
I have an edge to this. I think improvisation is a sport, but music and technical playing and just reading music and scales is not a sport. But the idea of improvisation where the ball might come from any angle and I might have to shoot or dunk or lay it up or pass or dribble, right? And I have to know how to handle any of those opportunities, right? And have worked on all the techniques in each to be, equipped for any possibility. Same way in football and in soccer,
Yeah, but the difference is that with improv, you can still get the ball in the net without knowing all those technical things.
True, you can do it on one note. And you're right. If you don't know how to shoot, you ain't going to make a basket. But with improv, you can do a one-note solo.
Yeah.
or C Jam Blues.
That's right. That's right. Get your 12-bar
Right,
blues
we gotta
out and
get-
just play Tay the whole time or something.
You know something?
There we
There's
go,
two
guys.
words that I hear only in this podcast that I don't hear anywhere else. Giant steps and octotonic. Those are the only words that I hear with you guys. I don't hear it anywhere else.
That's funny.
Nobody talks about octotonic or giant steps anywhere. It's only you guys.
We're nerds.
That's like you're in the right place at the right time.
All right.
Boys, it's been
It has
Boys,
been fun.
it's that time.
It's that time.
Hey, what if we called the podcast It's That Time? It's that time to like talk about music.
Yeah, nice.
We literally already have a name.
We can change
it's still
it.
we absolutely can.
And just call it
Every band-
Boys, It's That Time, you know?
That's nice.
Dude,
It's kind of like our
House
catchphrase.
All
anyway.
right. See ya guys later. Bye, everybody.
See y'all. Goodbye. Good night.